For as long as I can remember, I have loved going to the movies. There is something so captivating and transformative about film. How a gifted screenwriter can turn incredible ideas into powerful words, summoning drama, humor, and conflict from the page like casting a spell. How an actor who knows their part better than they know themselves can breathe life into those words, creating a character who until that moment only existed on paper, and a performance with the potential to be remembered for generations to come. And how a director with vision and imagination can bind those rare elemental creative forces, fashioning them into a gateway able to draw you into whole other worlds, holding fast to your senses until the closing credits roll, and sometimes, if the job is well done, for far longer. My name is M. Glenn Gore. I'll be your host each week as we explore in depth the newest releases both in the theater and at home. You're watching In Like Glenn, and today we're discussing I, Tonya. The following video contains spoilers for the film I, Tonya. Proceed with caution. Do you remember where you were when this happened? You know what? Let me back up for a second. I get nervous anytime a new movie announces itself as inspired by actual events, and here's why. Unstoppable, the 2010 Tony Scott disaster romp starring Denzel Washington and Chris Pine, claims to be based on a true story. One the movie would have me believe involved a 47-car runaway train hauling enough explosive chemicals to turn Ohio into the hole formerly known as Ohio. On its 60-some-mile unmanned helicopter pursuit rampage across the Midwest, this train allegedly mowed down everything from trucks and police cars to what looks to be someone's house before taking machine gun fire from a SWAT team and incinerating a forest. I'm not really certain, though. Trailers can be misleading. Can't they? My point is, do you have any recollection of this event? Any memory of a 90-mile-per-hour bomb the size of the Chrysler Building tearing ass through Ohio, cutting a swath of carnage in its wake so vast a National Guard should have been mobilized? No, you don't. Because it didn't happen. At least, not the way the movie tells it. I bring this up because the most frequent complaint I've seen leveled against I, Tonya, the new whip-sharp black hole dark comic docudrama about the life of former Olympic figure skater Tonya Harding's rise and eventual fall from superstardom, is that it plays fast and loose with the facts, omitting, obfuscating, and downright fabricating much of the narrative surrounding her involvement in the sordid events that led to the assault and injury of her rival Nancy Kerrigan. Yet the film opens with the following statement. Based on irony-free, wildly contradictory, totally true interviews with Tonya Harding and Jeff Gillooly. This is brilliant. The movie tells you in no uncertain terms that the information you're about to receive is almost certainly untrustworthy, and what comes of it is mayhem. Sheer, delightful, hilarious, heartbreaking mayhem. Directed by Craig Gillespie of Fright Night and Lars and the Real Girl, and written by Steve Rogers. No, not that one. I, Tonya is scripted and shot around a series of on-screen interviews with Harding herself, played by the versatile Margot Robbie, who is rapidly ascending to greatness before our eyes. Ex-husband Gillooly, portrayed upsettingly well by Captain America Winter Soldier's own Sebastian Stan, and Harding's mother Lavonna, brought to caustic, unapologetic life by the unconquerable Allison Janney. It takes seconds of this setup before you realize the entire debacle is going to be a clear-cut case of, we've investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong, and it is glorious. It is a frequently laugh-out-loud funny, cringe-inducing ordeal that largely succeeds in making you sympathetic to the atrocities Harding both endured as well as inflicted on anything and anyone unfortunate enough to be caught in her orbit. There's a truth where storytelling is concerned. And what must we always do, Will Smith?
Tell the truth.
Right you are. When you tell a story, especially one in which you were present, the instinct is always to adopt one of three roles. You're either the hero, a witness, or the victim. But what you almost never are is the cause of the problem, of the damage done. Each character attempts to frame themselves as the victim in this tale, which is very much the point. Truth is subjective, making this movie like Rashomon on ice. Janice Lavonna enters the time-honored pantheon of great, awful Hollywood moms in this outing. She takes her place alongside the likes of Piper Laurie, Faye Dunaway, and Anne Ramsey, holding her own with unmitigated acid-tongue bile. She plays the martyr whenever it suits her. She works 12-hour shifts as a waitress, spending every dollar she earns to afford Tonya her skating lessons and coach, and never once lets her forget it. It's Tonya who isn't trying hard enough. Tonya who isn't taking it seriously. Tonya who doesn't appreciate her sacrifices. Never mind the fact Lavonna is an injurious alcoholic with all the empathy of a grizzly. Her abuse as a cost is essential to her daughter's growth as her lessons. A necessary expenditure she must suffer if she is to ever become the greatest skater in the world. Her viciousness here is nearly unmatched. The Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards have already bestowed the Best Supporting Actress accolade on Janney for her bitter turn here. My expectation is the Academy will do the same. Or they can expect these in their mailbox. Margot Robbie is superb as Tonya Harding. She puts the infamous skater's hostile upbringing front and center, making it impossible for you to look away from its emotional and physical horrors, which play on grotesque repeat throughout. From her self-professed white trash roots, which caused her no end of grief with the officials she would encounter over the course of her career, to her marriage to a husband more abusive than her own mother, really, it's as if they were competing for who could cut her deepest. It seems skating and her father were her only loves, the latter of which opted not to stick around. Harding's claim to fame was her not at all unastonishing triple axel, a maneuver so difficult it is
like trying to hit a bullet with a smaller bullet whilst wearing a blindfold, riding a horse.
Harding never apologizes for her coarse exterior, and as long as she's the only one in the game capable of executing this move, she doesn't have to. She knows her worth, yet is quick to play the victim. Her lot in life is always the fault of someone else. The judges are the reason she doesn't score higher. They're to blame. Olympic figure skating has a look, an image, and an attitude, and it isn't hers. Harding knows this. She can't win because they won't let her, and some of that was true. There is no place where the playing field should be more level than athletic competition. No place where money, looks, or likability should matter less. The only question anyone should be asking is, who's the better skater? Robbie gives her all to the role. If the Academy gave awards for single scenes of work, she deserves one for the makeup bit just before her pivotal run at the Lillehammer Olympics. She moves seamlessly through emotions, shifting psychological gears fast enough to give you whiplash. Now more than ever, I'm excited for her future and what's still to come. Sebastian Stan puts in difficult-to-stomach work as Jeff Gillooly, Harding's violent, unstable boyfriend, who later becomes her violent, unstable husband. He is so filled with awful traits, it's a wonder he doesn't get stuck in doorways. He too is no exception to the rule when the time to lay blame comes. The film positions him as the mastermind behind a campaign to intimidate Harding's rival Kerrigan, the triggering marble in an ill-advised Rube Goldberg-esque machination that would culminate in a retractable baton to the skater's knee. To him, everything was perfect until Harding's newfound fame twisted her into the monster every media outlet would soon devote themselves to packaging and presenting her as. It's almost heartening when he finally admits the blame for her downfall rests squarely at his feet. When that time comes, you want so desperately for it to be the truth. It can be hard to stand out when you're up against work of Robbie and Janney's caliber, but Paul Walter Hauser pulls it off, putting in a side-splitting performance as the delusional and irritating Sean Eckhart, Harding's inept bodyguard. He erroneously believes himself to be an international counterterrorism expert and aspiring hypnotist. His minimalist approach to the character earns laughs without him having to lift a finger, and everything in his delivery, from his never quite awake expression to his near dyspnea, is spot on. The film treats you to archival footage of his real-world counterpart, a rotund basement dweller who fancied himself the brains behind the entire fiasco. Amusingly enough, he is the only one who does not attempt to veil his involvement in the scandal, at all times declaring his collusion to literally anyone who will listen. Eckhart believed he changed the course of history with his actions, and this is not exaggeration. This is stuff you can look up and watch with your eyes. In addition to the fluidity of truth, the movie tackles a number of resonant themes with commendable depth. Harding's mother takes her out of school to further concentrate on her training. She denies her meaningful friendships, in effect isolating her. To her, there are only other competitors, only enemies. It's telling that Nancy Kerrigan is the one person in the film Tonya calls her friend. LaVonna pushes Tonya's training in a way movies have long been fond of. The hard-nosed mentor-slash-coach who sees only potential in the athlete-slash-artist-slash-genius-slash-what have you, and determines that no level of pressure is too great to help them reach that potential. In Whiplash, the story of a gifted young drummer contending with the wrath of a tyrannical conductor, which is a stellar movie by the way if you haven't seen it, there's this exchange.
But is there a line? You know, maybe you go too far and you discourage the next Charlie Parker from ever becoming Charlie Parker?
No, man, no. Because the next Charlie Parker would never be discouraged.
The movie makes you wonder how many Tonya Hardings who never made it to the spotlight there might be. How many competitive dancers, pageant contestants, and would-be figure skaters have chased the unreasonable expectations of their parents to the exclusion of all else? How many brilliant, gifted kids were pushed to the breaking point and beyond, shouldering such colossal ownership of everyone's approval until something like this becomes inevitable? It makes you ask what it's worth, if anything. The film also explores in graphic detail the cycle of violence in Harding's life, how her often nightmarish childhood with her mother paved the way for an equally, if not more devastating relationship with her husband, and how she returns to him when we as the audience know he hasn't changed. In her words, violence was all she knew. It expanded into every corner of her life, bleeding into the sport itself where she felt hated by the judges and finally by all of us, who were only too eager to pour gas on her life as it burned. I was loved, for a minute, Harding says, and then I was hated. It was like being abused all over again. America has always loved an underdog, and the heady feeling a story about someone who rises from the dirt to greatness gives us. I think the only thing we might love more is to watch someone fall from that height, seizing every opportunity awarded us to kick them on the way down. Gillespie does a fine job in the director's chair, even if the film sometimes loses its footing when trying to balance the comedy with the tragedy. He wants you to sympathize with the characters, but isn't above punching downward at them when it suits him. Still, he has captured some masterful performances. To that, he knows where to place the camera and where and when to move it. The figure skating scenes are always well executed, lively, tightly choreographed, and a little bit exhilarating. I also find it somewhat ironic that in a movie that deals as frequently with survival and victimhood as this does, at no point does anyone attempt to speak to Nancy Kerrigan. That's not even a complaint, merely an observation. After all, it's not her story. Tonya Harding's professional skating career is over, and I'm left wondering if we've learned anything from the ordeal. Our society is still as enamored of the cycle of building up and tearing down celebrities as ever, to the point where it almost seems like an American pastime. That said, the film ends with a simple white type on black tag, taking care to make certain you know Harding, now married with a kid, is a good mother, despite very nearly becoming her own, with the potential of continuing that same cycle of physical and emotional damage with her children. Like the epiphany her ex-husband has earlier, this feels the same. After everything that's happened to everyone involved, you read those words, and you just want them to be true. I'm giving I, Tonya 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you for listening. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe to stay current on new updates as they arrive. Until next time, you were just in like Glenn.